Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Am I the jerk for not letting Karen's family use my Wi-Fi anymore? After that, the time I got a Karen arrested and banned from all Walmarts. And after that, would I be the jerk for suing my neighbor for filming me and posting it? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to use her neighbor's Wi-Fi. Oh, come on! So please smash that like button, and if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Am I the jerk for not letting Karen's family use my Wi-Fi anymore? I'm 26, male, and my internet is pretty bad. Let me start off by saying, it only works for one device. I got the cheapest plan because I started some online classes and I was only going to use it for that. My neighbors have a 13-year-old son whose school is doing everything online. Before his class started, they asked me if he could use my Wi-Fi for his school during the day since I'm at work and my classes aren't until later on. I said yeah, and then the problem started. The first week, I was having trouble logging into my classes and my laptop was being very slow. I checked my Wi-Fi and it was connected, so I didn't see the problem. I assumed maybe the neighbors were still connected and I went next door. Turns out, my neighbors were using it to watch Netflix on their tablet and they apologized. These incidents kept on happening. On weekends, when I would try to work on homework or submit assignments, my internet would be super slow and I'd have to walk over and ask them to stop using it. Every single time, they'd act like they forgot they were using my Wi-Fi and they said it wouldn't happen again. A few times, I told them I was going to change my password because this was only supposed to be so their son could take his classes, not for them to watch movies or for their son to play video games online. They always swore that they wouldn't do it again, but then the same thing would happen. The last straw for me was on Friday. I got home early from work because there was an assignment that needed to be submitted by 5. The assignment was mostly finished, I just needed to do some last-minute edits and then submit it. When I got home, the stupid Wi-Fi was lagging again, and I got so angry. My time was wasted going next door, knocking for like 20 minutes because they weren't answering the door, and telling them to stop using my Wi-Fi because I had work to do. They apologized for the millionth time because they didn't realize I was home early. Anyways, my assignment was not submitted by 5, so I lost a few points. Not a lot, but I was still upset about that. That was it for me, and I changed my Wi-Fi password. Went to my neighbors and told them their son was gonna have to find another way to access his classes by Monday. They tried pleading with me because he needs the internet for his classes, but I already gave them too many chances. They came to my door on Monday after work and they asked if I had changed my mind. My neighbor said they had to drop their son off at his friend's house for his class, and they said it was better for him to be at home. I told them I'm not letting them use it again since they're only going to take advantage of it, and I've already given them too many chances. His wife wasn't happy with this, and she said I'm ruining her son's education before they left. Was I the jerk for that? If they had just been using my Wi-Fi for their kid's school, we wouldn't have had any problems, but they kept taking advantage, and I don't know how else to make them stop. Would you let your neighbors use your Wi-Fi if they asked to? And why or why not? Please let us know. I always use my neighbor's Wi-Fi. Good thing none of them have a password set. The time I got a Karen arrested and banned from all Walmarts. Note: Walmart employees wear dark blue shirts and khaki bottoms. I was wearing a dark blue t-shirt and jean capris, but I was wearing my company lanyard ID. My last name, IT supervisor at the company. I was born with scoliosis. It was spotty at first, but I'm 21 and almost all of my hair is white. And I keep my hair real short because it gets in the way too much. I was browsing the aisles, wanting to enjoy my day off tomorrow from work at my company, and I wanted an almost spa day. I go to the lotions and I reach to grab one I believed I would like, and as soon as I touch it, a crash on the other side of the shelves causes several bottles of lotion to come crashing down on me. I was relatively fine, except for a bottle that hit my temple. Not so pain-relieving after all, I chuckled to myself. Because it was how I was raised, I go over to the other side and see if everyone was all right. And everyone was. Apparently, a kid took his parents' cart and was running down the other side and accidentally hooked a hard left, crashing into the shelves. His parents come to check him, they say apologies and they scold him. He looked like he was about 10. I laugh it off, saying how I will survive being attacked by lotion. I say I'm OP, and I tell the kid to be a bit more careful and we fist bump. They laugh and say sorry again and continue shopping. I walk back to my cart and start picking up the bottles and place them in their designated areas. I keep up on social media enough to know what's trending. I read stories like these, but never thought I could live it. I'm almost finished putting the bottles back and I hear it. the unmistakable warning noise of a wild Karen. Ahem. I look over my shoulder, and there she is, the biggest threat to employees and managers all over the world. She has a look on her face like someone just farted as soon as she sees me. She stomps her foot, and I get images of a bull ready to charge. I brace myself. Me. Hello? Do you need something? Karen. It's about time you noticed me. I've been standing here forever. Now that you're done stocking that shelf, you need to help me with my list. I stand there shocked and confused. I regain myself. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't work here. There was an accident. She cuts me off. Don't you lie to me. I know you work here. You're just being lazy and don't want to. Well, too bad. You either help me or I will have you fired. She all but yells in my face. I stagger back a little. Now, I'm not an outwardly confrontational person, but I will defend myself. I speak calmly. Me. No, I will not. I just told you I do not work here and I will not be helping you. I work at my company. She's having none of it. She turns red and starts yelling in my face and demands that I help her. When I go to step away again, she grabs my arm near my elbow and swings me into the lotion shelf where some bottles fall again and a broken rollback tag cuts me. In a desperate attempt to get away from her, I push her and she falls down. Karen. How dare you put your hands on me? I want your manager, now! Before I could respond, the parents and the kid came rushing over after being a couple of aisles away and recognized my voice from earlier. At this time, Karen and I are both on the floor. She's holding her arms and I'm holding my neck. The parents instantly come to me and ask if I'm all right and send the kid to go fetch an actual employee. Not a minute later, the kid comes back with 2 employees. One comes to assist me and the other to Karen, who, by the way, is screaming and fake crying, saying she'll sue me and the store and demands to talk to someone in charge. By now, this has formed a large crowd around the area and a couple of employees are trying to clear them away. Cops have been in the area and were there. The manager and police goes over to Karen first and asked her what happened. Karen. I was going to ask for help when your employee assaulted me and tells me to buzz off. I tried to defend myself. This time, Karen is cut off by the parents. Parent 1. She, Karen, is lying. We heard everything. She was demanding that OB help her with her list. Karen still demands I be fired and that she wants to press charges. The police tell the parents to be quiet and come over to me and put handcuffs on me and start reading me my rights. I begin to panic. I've never been in trouble with the law before. Karen has a smug smirk now, thinking that she's won. My saving grace is the manager. Manager to Karen. Ma'am, she doesn't work here. To the officer. Before you do that, we should review the CCTV and see what really happened. At this point, it's a little fuzzy because I started a full panic attack and it causes an asthma attack. I'm wheezing and shaking. I try to point to my bag and parent 1 instantly goes in and finds my inhaler. All the while, people were asking if I was okay and Karen was screaming that I was faking and should be arrested. By the time I was calm enough to be more aware of what's going on around me, Parent 1 tells me that the police and manager looked at the footage of our aisle and confirmed Karen was the one who assaulted me first, and when no one was looking, she tried to make a run for it, only to have the kid push a cart at her and make her fall face first into the floor. Of course, he was scolded in front of everyone, but I know that he was rewarded later. An ambulance was called and looked me over, and they said I was okay but should see a doctor. The officer apologized and asked if I wanted to press charges. I, of course, said yes. A couple of days later, I'm back at Walmart and I run into Parent 2 and the kid. They tell me how after I left to the hospital that Karen was arrested and put on a ban list nationwide with her name and picture. I took her to court and she paid for my hospital visit and for emotional damage. She ended up in jail for 2 to 3 years for her previous issues. The manager also caught where I was clipped in the head from the lotion and he gave me $350 in gift cards and a card where I can get 1 item a month for under $50 for free as an apology for everything. I said it was too much, but after the upper management saw what happened, they believed that I was too much of a valuable customer to let this slide. I think it's so I continue to use that Walmart instead of other stores in the area. I also get a week paid off from work. Who knew one Karen can do so much? Speaking of Walmart, have you ever seen a Karen in a Walmart? And if so, how did it go? Please let us know. I prefer Target. Would I be the jerk for suing my neighbor for filming me and posting it? I, 22 male, am a professional dancer. I'm visiting my parents for a few weeks and they have a small training room for me in the basement. So I was there, trained some stuff for the upcoming show, beginning when restrictions let it begin. and later that day I scrolled through Instagram. On Instagram, I've seen that my neighbor, who's 20, filmed me and posted it onto her story. It was not a short clip, it was a whole bunch of stuff, about 3 minutes worth of clips. I texted her and told her to please delete the clips, and she said the dancing was really good and that she would not delete it, as many of her followers, over 8,000, love it, and she offered me to put a shout out into her story. What the heck? I got a private Instagram account with 54 followers and do not care. So first of all, I don't even know her. We added on Instagram after a short chat and never talked again. I live 500 miles away. The thing is, now that I feel violated in my privacy. I mean, I have no problem with getting seen or filmed, but not at home. And for me, an even more important fact, on the video, there's some tricks and steps and effects that should not be seen until the great live reveal on stage. I'm thinking about suing her for this, as I do not feel comfortable with getting my private stuff posted. Would I be the jerk? Update. I reached out to her again and told her that we will sue her. She just brushed it off, saying that the story will be gone in 2 hours anyways, so just forget it. I screen recorded the whole story, plus the direct messages, and reported it to Instagram, who have not done anything yet. I had a Zoom call with my crew and our manager after that. The manager told me we will sue her, as some of the routines, etc. are likely to be stolen. I don't know what to expect from that whole thing, but yeah, at least she might take a lesson from it, I guess. Our lawyers have done pretty good job so far. Thanks for all the answers. Bless you guys, for real. Edit after reading some of the answers. I have no evidence that she was in our garden while filming. Between the road and the window is a garden which is about 5 meters bright. She either zoomed straight into the window with a perfect angle and filmed it that way, which I doubt, or she went into the garden, which makes more sense as the quality of the recording was pretty good and stable. The window is pretty small as well. And for those wondering, I live in Austria, and as far as I know, you are not allowed to post footage online without consent of the people portrayed. If the focus is on the landscape and there are people passing by it, it's discussable. But she explicitly filmed me on my training session, nothing else. It really creeps me out that someone watched me this whole time and I didn't realize. I'm looking forward to returning to my city and training in my studio again. Edit 2. I will post an update in a few days. This blew up overnight, and I will try to read through everything and answer open questions. So far, and again, thank you for all of your answers and ideas. I really appreciate all of you. Would you sue your neighbor if they recorded you and posted it online? Please let us know. I'll sue my neighbor for anything I can, to be honest. Customer asks me to perform thousands of dollars worth of unpaid investigative journalism to sell her a scarf. Some retail stores cater to high-touch customers more than others. The house of retail that I found myself working for most recently sells things that range from cheap, run-of-the-mill, in-house brands to Gucci and Prada and the like. It also prides itself on its customer service in a deep, unwavering, and absolute way. The customers that I had while working here definitely weren't the worst, but the retail fantasy that we offered did seem to draw in some particularly interesting people with particular quirks that definitely don't surface the same way in other stores. Something about the expectation of superlative service draws something out in them. Case in point, this woman. At this point in time, I'm often the only person in the accessories department and have taken up a sort of unpaid/untitled manager role. She approaches me, gentle and unassuming, and holding one of the house brand scarves. She has some questions about it. I happen to love scarves, and at this point had actually dedicated a substantial amount of my personal time into educating myself on the fabrics used, specifically wool and cashmere. Really boring if you don't care, and really interesting only if you're a scarf nerd in the freezing climate. She happens to ask questions about exactly these things. It's midwinter and the cashmere is flying off the shelves, ironically like some type of hotcake. And I'm honestly kind of overjoyed to have actual in-depth answers to offer her. At first. Very quickly it becomes clear that she's seeking deeper knowledge, more specific knowledge. She keeps talking, veering off into her own lifelong experiences with cashmere and her own passionate morals surrounding the subject of the ethical/sustainable harvesting of it, beginning to sound more and more like someone beating around the bush, and I think, oh no, something's happening here. Then she looks me dead in the eyes, smiles at me for the first time in our conversation, and tells me that she'd be really appreciative if I did some research for her. I feel distinct unease. I tentatively give her an okay. Without a beat, she begins the list. First, she'd like to know where we as a company source our cashmere from. I inform her that this isn't common knowledge. Any information past a PLY number is very rarely stated and only by very expensive brands, and that I'd definitely have to contact someone much higher up on the chain of command to get that information. She's okay with this. This by itself is incredibly daunting. Reminder, I'm a sales clerk on commission making near minimum wage, and I'm doubting that even regional managers would have this type of knowledge. I'd have to not only cross multiple company departments blind, but magically find the exact contract within that department who deals with this type of thing. I don't even know what any behind-the-scenes departments are named. This is a tall order. But we're not done yet. Oh no, her hunger is deeper than a mere source location. She'd also like to know if we harvest our cashmere in an eco-friendly way. She'd like to know if we outsource it to a third-party company, and regardless of who's doing it, she'd like to know if they rotate the pastures that the goats graze in. A real issue, as the appetite of mass-bred cashmere goats can be destructive to local ecosystems. On that note, she would also like me to find out if they keep the number of goats involved low to avoid that problem. I inform her, weekly, that this would be even harder to find out. Understatement, I haven't found a single brand, $3,000 sweaters or not, that share any of this information. She's okay with this and is fine with waiting a week or two. Her generous estimation, while I do my digging on this for her. By this point, I'd started a list on paper, and she gives me her email to jot down as well. Trying to be genial, I let her know that these are fantastic questions because on their own they are, and that I'd love to know the answers myself because I really would, and that I'll do my best to find out what I can. She nods sagely. Okay, great. And immediately she walks away. I stare after her, the basic look of a thank you ringing in the air, and know quietly, deep in my heart, that even if the broken promise comes back to bite me in the butt, she can do her own research. The month after is when everything started to shut down. It did not come around to bite me in the butt. What would you tell a customer if they asked you to look all this up for them? Would you do it or not? Please let us know. I don't see what the big deal is. When I schooled the school district, I'm from a medium-sized Texas town. I started school early in life and was able to skip several grades without much effort, so when I entered high school, I was much younger than my peers. It didn't help I was short as a starting junior high student, had a baby face with a social maturity to match. I was lucky to find an outlet in computers, practicing system security exploits and doing things with software. While mid-90s, most people were just using their new Dell to use ICQ and Yahoo Messenger while watching Total Request live on MTV. In high school, computer classes were absolutely stifling to me, with clueless teachers trying to explain PowerPoint while they quickly tried to teach themselves. This led to me being extremely bored in class, doing things like setting up LAN games with other kids in class to pass the time, or changing grades of students, up or down, depending if they were a bully or a friend. And unfortunately, I had no friends. The teacher, after catching several students playing Doom and Quake, learned it was me bypassing their weak Windows 95 security by the guilty students throwing me under the bus. Principals were seen, parent conferences were requested, and the verdict after a long conference was I should be used to help the school handle its computer network and do free IT work. They offered to allow me to exempt from the lame elective classes and spend half my day helping brain-dead teachers figure out how to use the recycle bin and remove flying toaster screensavers. This was preferable to being in regular classes with normies who only caused me anxiety. And the fact they blackmailed me by threatening to call SPA, Software Publishers Association, when it was found out that I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing, I truly believed my hands were tied. All this BS should have been serious red flags, but again, I was young, naive, and eager to get out of trouble. Honestly, I really enjoyed the work, since most days I was in a small attic that was used for storage until a teacher placed a work order and was able to do pet projects. Near the end of my junior year, I was tasked to build a database and distribute to teachers new mind-blowing fast Pentium 90 with a blistering fast 16 megs of RAM computers that were purchased during a large school renovation. This is fairly important. I took it serious with getting a barcode machine, signatures of each teacher as they received the computers, etc. I was informed that the teachers were being allowed to take the computers home over summer to learn how to use them. I didn't care, they weren't mine, and assumed that they were smart enough to realize I kept great records. Upon reflection now, I question if they put me in that position in hopes that I would fail. Not sure. What I am 100% sure of is out of something like 60 computers that left the school, only 14 came back. The front office acted full-blown rare about the situation. I never had any issues with teachers prior years, but once I started mentioning to the administration that I could easily let them know which teacher still had a PC, things changed. I was told to stick with minding my own business and to not make a big deal. News was spread that the school, during the renovations, purchased $100,000 worth of chalkboards just for the teachers to complain about wanting dry erase boards. So the school district wasted another $60,000 to build a warehouse to house the chalkboards versus sending the chalkboards back. There was going to be an emergency bond hearing to procure more money for the dry erase boards, and they planned to tack on money to buy another round of PCs for the teachers who already stole computers for their homes. I find out the time of the school board meeting and went to it. I didn't know the rules of the meeting, so when they started talking about the need for more computers, I try to interject but get promptly removed from the meeting and told not to return ever again. Literally the next day, I had teachers of each class misgrading my work, trumping up claims of being disruptive to get me out of class, and passive-aggressive antics like forcing me to spend the entire class out of the room if I came 30 seconds late to class, causing me to not know the knowledge for tests. It became so bad, I went from making A's and B's in advanced classes to getting F's for the same efforts I was earning A's, and it was seriously affecting my ability to possibly graduate. I was mad. All I did was try to do what was honest and right, just to be met with strife from the school conspirators. I decided to go to a city council meeting and try to let people know what was happening, but it seemed they were warned and ready, since when I went to speak, I was booted out. A little research taught me the city council and school board were working in conjunction to perform their dirty dealings. Not to be held back by a school filled with a bunch of live, laugh, love, basic jerk teachers and administrators, I noticed it was an election year, and I started going to local political meet and greets with folks looking to take certain city council seats. I enjoyed when the local news cameras were there, because they would usually air said questioning about the missing computers. Unbeknownst to me, several city council members up for re-election had hands in this cookie jar. I was now completely failing school because of salty teachers, and the only thing saving me is threats from my parents that I would be back in the same classes with the same teachers because they were so great for OP. This actually had teachers reverse their petty grading just so they wouldn't have to deal with me again. A few weeks before the election, I spent my afternoons going door to door, reminding what property taxpayers' money is actually going to. I had entire neighborhoods ready to grab pitchforks. This all culminated when over half the city council, including popular incumbents, lost their seats and several investigations for misuse of funds. Several computers started magically appearing at the school from time to time from fearful teachers, but they removed the barcodes, making it completely impossible to determine whose PC it was. The idea that these people are molding the minds of the youth was terrifying to me. I barely got out of high school. My GPA was now trash, and my college choices were out the window. That's a small price to pay, since at the end, several people were arrested. Many lost their jobs, and most who did had to flee the city since they couldn't save face. Forget them. They got theirs. Am I the jerk for not staying at work, even though I was scheduled to be off for the afternoon? So with everything that's been going on, they've been low censusing people at my work, which basically means some people go home early / arrive later in the day, and they don't get paid for those missing hours. Thankfully, they take turns with low census, so it's not the same person every time. Yesterday, it was my turn to be low census for the afternoon, and I was actually looking forward to it. I had some phone calls I needed to make, and I needed to study for a huge upcoming test, so this was the perfect opportunity to work on that. However, when I got into work that morning, I saw that I had been scheduled for the whole day, despite the fact that I was supposed to be off in the afternoon. Puzzled, I asked my boss what was going on, and she explained that one of my coworkers called in sick, so they needed me to stay. This bugged me because they didn't inform me of it at all. No phone call, email, or anything. I had to find out by checking the schedule the morning I came in. Here's where I might be the jerk. I explained to my boss that I had already made plans for the afternoon and couldn't stay. She got all huffy with me, and in addition to trying to guilt trip me into staying, she said we weren't allowed to make plans on low census days for that reason. In the end, I still got to go home early, but I checked my union contract because I was curious, and lo and behold, it states that we aren't required to be on standby for low census days. What's more, if we are on standby, we're entitled to receiving standby pay, which is about 1.5 times our regular hourly wage. My coworkers had similarly been annoyed when I told them what our boss had said to me, so I shared this information with them, and they'll be more than likely to inform our boss of this clause. Edit. Wow, you guys. I leave for a couple of hours to go to a doctor's appointment, only to come back to a flooded inbox. I'd like to thank everyone who commented and offered judgment and support. I'm very tender-hearted, and I don't like it when people are mad at me, so it gives me comfort in knowing that I didn't do anything wrong. I actually have a meeting with my management tomorrow that's for a completely different crap show of a story. To be brief, basically, management tried to write me up for failure to improve on feedback, but they completely botched the process and didn't follow the proper protocol at all, so HR threw it out. I don't doubt for a second that they might try to start the process again tomorrow, and I wouldn't be shocked if this came up during the meeting. If it does, I'll just mention the union clause and leave it at that. I consulted with my father on what's due tomorrow, and he advised me to go in with a level head, and if they start talking like they want to pursue punishment, shut it down immediately by requesting a union representative. Legally, once a union representative has been requested, management can't continue with the meeting. He also advised me that if I do, and they continue with the meeting in spite of it, don't say anything. Let them dig their own grave, and the second I get out of there, contact high management and tell her what happened, and possibly even my union, depending on how things go. This woman not only actually knows my dad and is on relatively friendly terms with him, but in simple terms, she's also basically the boss of my supervisor and my administrator, and she's essentially in charge of how the whole facility is run and determines whether or not we get to stay open during what's going on. Not the kind of person you want to have mad at you. She's very fair and kind, and she's actually the one I contacted when they tried to write me up, and she investigated everything on my behalf and was the one to tell management that they couldn't do this. Because of this, she's already ticked at my supervisor and my administrator for how they handled things, and the poor girl will probably have an aneurysm if they pull something like this tomorrow, especially since she already talked to my supervisor about how she handled things. With all of this in mind now, I'm actually kind of excited to see how this meeting will go tomorrow, because if management messes up again, it will not go well for them. I'll update this post again tomorrow when I get home from work with how everything went. Edit 2. Who's out here giving me awards on my stupid post about my workplace gripes? Seriously, y'all are too kind. $7 for a sandwich? I want to see a manager. It finally happened. I witnessed my first Karen. Boyfriend and I went to the local mini market to get some pizza dough. Thankfully, there's not much of a line, so we get on and wait our turn. Suddenly, we see/hear this lady, henceforth known as Karen. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the haircut. Go off on this poor cashier girl complaining about the sandwich from the deli. I'm guessing she didn't know the price until it was rung up, because suddenly we hear, $7? Are you kidding? My boyfriend and I look at each other like, oh God. Karen, I want to see a manager. This is ridiculous. The cashier goes and comes back with a manager within 2 seconds. It's a small store. I gotta give credit. This guy doesn't back down. Karen is complaining about the price of the sandwich, and manager is explaining that the weight of the meat in the sandwich equals the price. She is not having it. Karen, I can get it for much cheaper at the deli down the street. In my head, I'm like, then why are you here? Karen, I'm still gonna buy it, but just look at it. This isn't much meat. Manager, I'm sorry you don't like our prices, but that's how much it is with the weight of the meat, cheese, and spread. Karen, but that's far too high. Let me show you the sandwich. Manager, miss, if you open the container, you have to buy it. I'll still pay for it, but I'm never coming here again. Lady proceeds to open the container and show him the contents of the sandwich. Manager, there's plenty of meat and cheese. Karen, but not worth $7. Manager, I don't make the prices. I'm sorry, miss. Manager rolls his eyes and leaves. This lady is now berating this cashier who has nothing to do with the pricing. My first job when I was 17 was as a cashier for a supermarket, so I immediately empathized with the girl. There's so much you want to say, but can't, because you have to keep that customer service smile in order to get that paycheck. The other cashier calls for me and boyfriend to ring us up. Then I hear this ridiculousness. Karen, what happened to the people who used to own this place? They never would have priced it like this. Cashier, I'm not sure. I was hired after new ownership took over. Even so, they no longer own this store. Karen, I'm going to make a complaint. This is ridiculous. $7 for a tiny sandwich? Okay, so I've been to this store many times. The sandwiches aren't big, but there's a decent amount of meat in there, and it depends on what kind of sandwich you get. At this point, I've had enough, and so has boyfriend. We don't want to make a scene, and I'm not very good with confrontation. Boyfriend and I leave. The exit is right where Karen and the cashier are. We get to exit, and just before we leave, I shout, "Bye, Karen!" Karen turns her head to look at me with bewildered eyes. I walk off. Boyfriend looks at this lady with an annoyed/disapproving look. It may have been a bit cowardly, but I'm still kind of proud of it. Especially when I heard one of the cashiers let out a laugh. Boyfriend and I laugh all the way back to the car. I don't know what happened after we left, but from the look at that lady's face, I think she realized just how she looked. Not very dramatic, no cops, no rants, just an entitled lady complaining about a sandwich. Oh, and boyfriend and I made an awesome pizza. Speaking of sandwiches, where's your favorite place to get sandwiches from? I used to go to this place called Schlotsky's back in the day. They were really good. I prefer Panera Bread. But Jason's Deli is a close second. Please come watch this video next. You will love it. And if you join as a channel member today, we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And you can actually have us make any kind of video you'd like us to. Just come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.